All right, Metal Maniacs, it's the Meista from Brews and Tunes. Cheers. I am
Hello.
absolutely thrilled tonight because I am talking to the one and only Mr. Aaron Robinson of death metal band Blood of Angels. Thank you so much for joining me, Aaron. How you doing?
I am great, actually
Excellent.
doing very well. And thank you for having me on the show. This is awesome. And being able to communicate with your audience, fantastic. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you
Yeah,
for the
very cool.
opportunity.
So I guess the first thing I wanted to like maybe we'll kind of talk about what's happening now or most currently. So
Okay.
I know you guys released a single Spillage, which
Hmm.
kicks ass, by the way.
Thank you.
In That was released in late 2022, but the lyric video was just recently released, I think in the last several weeks, if I have my
Yes.
dates right. I don't often have my dates right, but yeah, and yeah, killer. I'm loving it. And I guess that my curiosity is this because it's a little bit different, not a lot, but a little bit different from Failure of Faith. So is this kind of the direction of the band now, or do you guys are you working on a new album? Kind of what are you doing right now? What's happening now?
Um, we are working on a new album. I wouldn't really say it's really the direction of the band, more of the direction of that particular song.
Okay.
um just to kind of give you an idea where we are artistically. It's not we don't really pick a particular genre or style of metal exactly and
Mm.
go, okay, this is what we're going to be now. um the thing is that, I mean, the four of us, we're as much fans of Iron Maiden as we are of Dark Funeral, as we are of Cannibal Corpse,
Right.
as we are of Exodus and Hyrex, and Forbidden, if we want to go old school thrash bands and things like that. So what we try to do is to blend, sometimes successfully, sometimes not successfully, I'll admit, as much of that together into kind of a cohesive sound.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I was just rocking out to with the guitar, and just that main riff, that da 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 da, da, and I was just rocking with it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is it. This is definitely the song right there. And it felt natural. I was like, instead of trying to throw a lot of glitz into it, or a lot of techno, or build it up in the song, yeah, let's just keep it heavy, hard driving, simple, verse chorus in your face, and then to be done with it. But I mean, other songs like one of the ones that we're working on now for the new album that we're doing, this song, working title is called "The Pain Inside." um has a lot of My Dying Bride
Oh, interesting.
and typo negative influence into it too.
Nice.
If those bands did it with a 7-string guitar.
Okay.
That's
Interesting.
how I like to describe it, which is very different than what we've done before,
Yeah.
because we're just being more collaborative now than we were previously, because
Interesting.
because we've been a solid lineup together for about as this lineup for about 5 years now. We all know our strengths and weaknesses, and our writing process, we're really pulling from each other now collaboratively,
Oh, very cool.
as opposed to me going in and going, here's the songs, this is what we're playing. Now,
Gotcha.
this is a more harmonious environment, I would say. I guess. No, it's just things are good. Things are good with all of us at the moment.
Very
And
cool.
I know I went off on a tangent for one simple question, but
No, that was awesome. That was great. And that's what I'm glad you brought that up. The fact that I think that's one thing that really draws me to Blood of Angels is the fact that it is not um just you guys don't play the genre game. It's like we're gonna just make kick-ass music, and it's going to kind of span all this other what our influences are. And that's one thing I really dig about your music is, yeah, there's that thrash metal element, there's a death metal element, there's a melodic death metal element to it, there's traditional metal. Yeah, you guys kind of cover the bases, but in a really for lack of a better term, it's very organic. It doesn't feel forced. It feels very natural, the way you guys approach what you're doing. And what I also love, what you and I were chatting about a little bit before that we started recording this, was you guys don't pull any punches, especially lyrically, like which I have a lot of respect for. There's no bullshit. It's like, this is what we think, this is how it is, we're gonna lay it out there. And I have a lot of respect for that, especially in this day and age, with music. And it's cool to see a band taking a stand on, you know, certain opinions, and I think that's great. I think it's awesome. And I'm really excited to hear the new material, the new album, because I thought, you know, Failure of Faith, just oof, what a kick-ass album. What you guys really nailed that. And I loved you know, the EP that you guys did before that. And it was interesting, just kind of I mean, musically, maybe not so much a different direction, but, you know, definitely lyrically a different direction. But, you know, kind of going from a, you know, Norse mythology to a, you know, kind of more socially religious, socio-political, religious criticism view of the world, which I thought was very cool as well. So
Yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, Rise of the Fallen Gods, due to really just the lineup really kind of collapsed, and I just ran with an EP on that. I mean, you know, I mean, everybody, Chris, Kevin, and Michael, I mean, from the EP, I mean, you know, they had other things and other obligations and just went off on their separate ways. And I was just like, oh, okay, I'll just go with this. I mean, the idea of Rise of the Fallen Gods is supposed to be a full length covering mythologies of the ancient world. We just only was able to record and finish the Norse mythology portion.
oh,
But we
interesting.
were going to go into do some songs about the Greek mythology, how they do a song how it influenced Roman mythology. You know, and
Oh,
Roman
cool.
mythology was a spin off. It was a spin off of that, and you know, and end it really with just the Norse mythology kind of being the latest period of time. It's just the songs and everything for the Norse mythology just came together first, and then everybody kind of went their separate ways. And I'm like, oh, okay, I like these three songs. I'll just do an EP and put it out there, and then you know, the plan was I'll rebuild. You know,
Yeah.
you know, basically rebuild the band like a sports team would. Yeah,
Right. Right.
you know, pretty much. You know, it's like, oh, okay, the core guys left. You know, now time to look for new blood, and you know, and I did that, and Failure of Faith, it really came together that way, and now we're still that same dedicated lineup, which is fantastic.
Yeah, nice. That's cool. Do you think you'll ever revisit that mythology concept in terms of, you know, musically? I mean, it sounds like you had kind of mapped that out. So, you know, do you ever plan to return to that, or are you kind of moving forward now with what you're doing with the current lineup?
I can see ourselves doing that somewhere down in the future. Not currently.
Oh,
Um, not where we are right now, but yeah, but I can see ourselves probably doing it some, maybe even the next album after this one. It could possibly be something, you know, going
nice.
down that road.
Yeah, it sounds very compelling. So that's why I was curious about that. It sounds like that's a cool idea to kind of, you know, cover those mythological bases, as it were, you know, with, you know, especially that, as you said, that transition from the Greek to the Roman. That's interesting.
Yeah, because it was kind of, I mean, Rise of the Fallen Gods and Failure of Faith was actually kind of a planned out thing.
Hmm,
I was going to do the ancient world, and then what Failure of Faith became, which, you know, which basically goes into just the three major monotheistic religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and how they've done a wonderful job dividing us and screwing up our world,
right.
you know, over absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and still to this day, I mean, it really amazes me in the modern day. I mean, you know, the research, the proof is out there. Archaeologists have been digging in Israel forever. They have found zero evidence of King David. Even after the carbon dating of the Wailing Wall shows that it was built, you know, just before Pontius Pilate came in, you know, came into Jerusalem and then into that area during his reign of the time, you know, and they still think it was part of you know, King David's temple, which is why they need to pray to it all the time. I'm like, oh, come on, Really, the Dome of the Rock, it's a meteor, yet, oh no, it came from paradise. It came from another world. Yes, space. It's a meteor.
Yeah, yeah,
We know what it is. Why
yeah.
are you worshiping,
Science. Yeah,
it's like we know the truth behind these things, and yet billions and billions of people still fall for this narrative. And you
yeah,
know, you figured in the year 2023 with our technology and how far we've come in science and the fact we have been in space, we get past this, but apparently not.
no, yeah. Sadly, no, no. And I love the fact that you guys have delved into this,
No.
and again, you don't pull any punches. You call it out, and especially, well, like I mean, from the get go, from the first song, kind of you lay it all out, and I love the fact that you incorporated uh Motorhead's "I Don't Need Religion" in
Yeah,
them as well. I thought that was a great cover, and it
I'm glad
fits
you liked it.
perfect. Yeah, and it fits perfectly too. I thought that was great. I thought that was awesome. So
Well, it was the first thing. It was the first thing I got to do recording wise since the great and amazing Ian Lemmy Kilmeister passed away. And so I mean, of course, I never got to meet him, but the way he was another icon. I mean,
yeah,
never pulled any punches. I mean, one of the things I admired about him as a young man was, he's Lemmy. You
yeah,
take you take him or you don't, and you don't give a damn either way.
yeah,
And yeah, and so I did want to do a Motorhead song kind of as a tribute, and I was searching through, but I was like, God, but what fits the theme? What's the theme? But then I came across, I came across the Iron Fist album, and there it was, and I'm like, oh, perfect.
yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
And it's not a common Motorhead, so it's a song that people cover. So,
yeah, which I thought
I
was
mean, I
good.
know it's simple, but it says it all right there. And and that would be a Motorhead song. So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was our way of fitting both. Yeah.
yeah. I thought that was perfect. I thought that was genius. I mean, yeah, like you said, I mean, it fits perfectly, and you made it your own, which I thought was cool, but still, honoring Lemmy's, memory. And yeah, I thought that was great. I thought that was very cool. So I was really curious about the kind of the formation of the current lineup of Blood of Angels, because I know so Maggot, the bass player, you both
Yes.
played together previously in Foreshadow.
Right.
So I was curious about how, because as you mentioned before, there was the EP was a different band, and the current lineup. I was curious how that all came together. Like, what was kind of the impetus of that? How did that happen?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Megan and I have always really had chemistry. I mean, for a long time. I mean, we've been jamming together for about 15 years. And he's a great human being. It was just it he was having he was having things going on in his personal life where he really couldn't hit the road, where he really couldn't travel and everything. Otherwise, I would have had him since day one, in all honesty with it. So I kind of gathered. I had Michael in the band, which he came from Motor Grader, and that was great. And he had the ability to travel and do things, but unfortunately, we didn't really get an opportunity to make the full record, or to do the original plans with the release of Rise of the Fallen Gods anyway. But yeah, I mean, it really how it kind of came together is that I had Jonathan first, and Jonathan and I, another longtime Tampa metal drummer who's been in many different bands. When I was in Foreshadow, Maggot was in Foreshadow. He was in another band, and we played a lot of shows together in the scene. And there were times where Megan and I wouldn't hang out with the other guys in our band. It would be me, him, and Jonathan. Would hang out together because we had a lot in common. I mean, the three of us, we love our whiskey. We're both Guinness dark beer people. So we have the drinking thing in common. And so the first thing that came across was Jonathan. It was I was trying to put the lineup together to start the album, and he came across my Facebook. It was his birthday, and then I messaged him, and I was like, hey man, I'm getting a band, I'm getting I'm getting a lineup together for, this Blood of Angels project that, I kind of started working on. Would you be interested? And basically in all caps with exclamation points, yes,
Nice.
because again, I mean, we've been friends and respectful of each other, within the scene, but we never actually worked together before. And he wasn't busy, in any bands doing anything. So he jumped right on it, and I started working the songs with him first. And I thought that would be a good beginning. That if together he and I can get like 4 songs together, just guitar and drums, and then bring Maggot in, on bass, it would be, it'd be able to, he'd be able to jump right in and pick it up, no problem. Um, and now I'm about to toot Maggot's horn for a while, and deservedly so.
Yeah.
And I'll say it right here, and I've said it a few on different podcasts, and I'll say it right here too. If he had the opportunity to be in one of our legendary Tampa bands of a Cannibal Corpse, if he had that opportunity, or I mean, Alex Webster's amazing, don't get me wrong, but if he had an opportunity to be like something like that, or Obituary, or Morbid Angel, or something, I swear the industry would be talking to him at least one of the top 10 bass players in metal. I swear about it. This guy is phenomenal beyond phenomenal. Nothing. The things he can do with a 6-string bass and run around the stage as a performer that he does is I have not seen. I've not really seen an equal to both performer and technician, at the same time. And it all completely comes from feel too. He's just and what's amazing with him is the ability on how he can just get into a song of almost any style. And I've seen him do it, with as he's guested with other project, and he does it with me, that like within an hour, of learning a song, he'll be playing it like he's been working on, like most people would be at working at it for 3 months. I mean, he is just that quick, jumps right into it. Even the craziest, complicated, sweep arpeggio, lated, he's like, okay, and he'll play with it, noodle, and he's right there, and then he's there forever.
Nice. Just a natural, just that's cool.
Absolutely. So I brought him in, and Jonathan, and then it was the quest of finding a vocalist, and I really didn't know any vocalists really personally in the scene, that I've had a relationship like that. At the time where the 3 of us were practicing at Randy's house, he basically built a rehearsal jam studio space in the back of his home, and he was renting it out to different bands. So that's where we were practicing at the time. And while we were working on the songs, he was loving it. He was loving it. He's like, yeah, I'm loving it. I'm playing Call of Duty and Halo, and I'm listening to you guys like rocking out, playing heavy stuff. And I turned the volume off on the game because it just perfectly fits the game,
Nice.
And and he was hanging with us, and we were talking about a singer, and he's like, you mind if could I give it a try? I'm like, yeah, sure, most definitely, So I was like, here, you sing something, whatever, So basically, we put on a machine, and we had a mic in the space, and he started. I don't know exactly what song, but it was a Mushroomhead song, and he was covering both vocals from Mushroomhead.
Wow.
Seamlessly, and I'm like, wow, okay, there's something here. There's something here. So I emailed him my demo of the first track of Failure of Faith that we had, Monotheism, and I gave him the lyrics. I gave him just my guitar to a click, and then I gave him another track, basically kind of doing the lyrics kind of in the timing that I was looking for, of a vocal demo. I'm not a great vocalist by any means, but but within the rhythm, generally.
Right. Yeah.
And I emailed it to him, and I was like, hey, next practice, man, if you can have this, see how you do with us, you have this ready. And the next practice, he just jumped right in and did it in perfect timing, cool accent marks and everything. Again, like he was been rehearsing with us since the beginning, doing this song, since we started working on this song. And I was like, That's great. And yeah, the four of us are I'd say our biggest thing right now is I think we're doing a fantastic job, and we have been communicating with each other.
Nice.
Sometimes in bands, there's always sometimes there's always the hostility. It's like, oh, your riff sucks, and one guy gets pissed off, and whatever.
Yeah.
But but the notes that we're giving each other is definitely everyone is listening to each other, receiving, giving things an honest shot. Or a lot of thing is, like there's been a couple of things in the new album where an idea has been suggested and I've gone ahead and implemented it. But then I was like, but maybe if I add a little of this, like if I finish like not on the root, but if I finish on the fourth, of the note, it gives it maybe a little, it just doesn't sound so bland. And then, I do a little twist and then that works and we're all like, yay, So, yeah, I mean, that's where we are right now. I think, we're in a very good place communicatively.
Nice. Yeah, I would say that, just, the album alone, but also just, watching any live footage of you guys on YouTube, like, yeah, it seems like you're very tight. Like you guys, like it's, as you mentioned before, it's very cohesive. It's very collaborative. It seems like, and it's fun to see, obviously I live nowhere near you, but I've watched a lot of live footage of you guys playing, and yeah, it seems like you guys are just it's a joy to watch you play because you all seem really excited and really in tune with what's going on stage with one another, which is obviously the sign of a great band, but also just makes it just fun for an audience to see a band that tight and that cohesive, which is cool to see. And yeah, as you mentioned, I mean, just watching Maggot live and Jonathan live, I mean, man, and you as well. I mean, all of you guys, I mean, just monster. Yeah, Jonathan's a monster drummer, man. He's fun to really watch. That guy's a beast. Ooh. So
yeah, when he feels it, he feels it. And I mean, I'd say that's the band we are. We really are more than anything a live band and road warriors. We love being in that van, and we love traveling the country, and we love any dirty, dingy bar, that smells like a mixture of vomit and stale beer is home.
Yeah, nice.
Anywhere in the world, I mean, and that's the thing. Anytime I go into a venue, even one I'm not familiar with, and I just breath, and I'm like, yep, that's it. That's it right there.
I'm home.
Yeah, and we wouldn't change it for anything, man. That's just how we are, especially with the current music business climate. I don't know if we're going to get into that, but
yeah. Well, the touring, like, are you guys touring right now? Or are you just kind of focusing on the new music, or do you have any live shows coming up at this point?
It's just the new music right now. There's a possibility. Our label Biohazardous Records is cooking up a possible festival up in Indiana.
Oh wow!
So we might go up and do, maybe if that goes, we would probably go do that in September, October for a Halloween show. We're going to do kind of just a one-off here in Tampa at home for Halloween with some other bands of friends and everything, which basically is just a really big public Halloween party. It's we've done it before, and it's always a fun blast. And that's probably show-wise, that's pretty much what we would be doing this year. I hope to be done with the album by March, which would put like maybe a May, June release. And definitely, I've already been in talks with touring in the States in the summer, and hopefully, possibly, I'm getting out of the country next year in the fall to go to South America, and then really like 2025, and 2026, getting out and hitting as hard as we can.
Nice. That's very cool. It's still just saying the words 2025. It's like mind blowing to me. Like, how do I live in the world where 2025 is in a couple of years from now? That's insane. How old are you?
I know, right? Yeah. Because I
Yeah.
mean, you know, we all played those Sega video, Sega and Nintendo
Yeah.
video games of dystopian realities. And actually, when we were playing them when we were young, it was like in the year 2012, and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I mean, I love, I still love. I'm a vintage video game guy. I still love those things. Playing the old Double Dragon and
Yeah. Yeah.
games like
Nice.
that. And it's like 2012. That was, but yeah, when we were playing them, I mean, it was just a crazy, back when we were playing those games in like 88,
Right.
1990,
Yeah.
2012 was just such a far off, that's not a real year.
Yeah. 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 And here we are. And here we
Yeah,
are.
and here we are, 2023. So yeah,
It's
all still here,
yeah,
yeah.
on the path to dystopia, but we're not there yet, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, at least we know it's not at least we know it's not the lizard people, enslaving all
Right.
of
Yeah,
us.
exactly.
Yeah. That's one I didn't get to on the Failure of Faith album because there were so many other mythologies to conquer. But yeah, I would have really have loved to have dissected that Alex Jones,
Oh God. Yeah. Oh wow.
the whole, yeah. Because I mean, one of the things is that they brought up is that the Zionists are a part of it, and yeah, I mean, according to the Torah, I mean, I am Jewish from my mom's side of the family,
Oh.
and I'm like, really? Because I've never noted, I've never showered and green blood came out,
Yeah.
I mean, I fit the bill of the Zionist, I mean,
Yeah.
I've never once I recall ever shedding my skin and, and roaming through the world as a reptile. That's
Right.
weird.
Yeah. Have you
But
been
maybe part of it's
designing?
true. That's why I love living in Florida. So there you
Okay.
go.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. And have you been designing space lasers at all? Or?
Yeah, I know. When I heard about that one, I was like, why have I never let in on this shit?
Yeah.
Like what, they skip me? Come
Yeah.
on,
I want
I mean,
in. I want it. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I know I'm not Hollywood, but I do kind of have an audience in the metal world. That's something.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Right. Nice. Um. Now I forgot what I was going to ask you. But it was worth it. That was worth it. It was totally worth it.
No, but this is good though. This is the fun of podcast. It's not
Yeah.
scripted, as opposed
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
radio.
Yeah. I love this. I like this a lot.
Yeah.
Well, let's and speaking of Sega and Nintendo, let's take a trip in the Wayback Machine some more.
Okay.
I was curious about your musical origins. So, did you come from a musical family? Kind of where did that start? What was the start for you as far as becoming a musician?
Yeah, a musical family, kind of a performing family.
Hmm.
I mean, if I really go back to it, and that's pretty much on my mom's side. My dad's side of the family are very much engineers and in the field of medicine and things like that. And
Oh, cool.
very brilliant people, but not very, that artistic. My mom's side of the family really was. Yeah, I mean, as far as performing family, I mean, my great grandparents. I mean, that's where they came here from Russia. They were actors in theater in Russia.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and I mean, they left Russia with my grandfather when he was like only 3 years old, around 1920, to get away from the Bolsheviks and Stalin and all that, and ended up in France. And then they left France in 1932 when they saw the rise of the Third Reich coming up out of Germany to come to America. And when he came here in America, my great grandfather was always in communication with a friend of his that ran a theater that used to exist in the Bronx that did Russian language plays. So when my great grandfather and my great grandmother came, they basically went right to work in that theater, producing and acting in those plays. My grandfather was a pianist. Yeah, I mean, he was a classical concert pianist. And then when World War II broke out, I won't go into the long story, but basically he ended up in one of the bands as part of the USO tour.
Oh, okay.
And so, so he played piano and got connections with Glenn Miller and Buddy Rich and was there as the backing band when Bob Hope showed up on the battleships and things like that. So, and then after the war, he continued working, with those big bands for a while. So, he was an incredible pianist, as far as a sight reader. He wasn't a composer, but you can put he was one of those musicians. You can put any piece of sheet music in front of him, even if he's never seen it before, and start playing it like, you know, again, like I mean, he's been rehearsing it forever. He just had that ability. He knew the keyboard perfectly, and you know, knew those things.
Nice.
So yeah, when I was a kid and visiting my my grandparents, my grandfather would practice, and you know, I would just love it. He played like a lot of the old jazz standards of the time during his career. And you know, he noticed my interest, and he sat me down and he started me ear training me, basically. You know, like, you know, Dan, what's this note? Okay, it's middle C. Okay, what's this? You know, and then started adding sharps and flats, and it got the chords, and it got the scales. Um, Guitar. I mean, I loved music, but you know, I didn't, I didn't gravitate towards the piano. It's not something, you know, an instrument I was interested in. I didn't really have an instrument really, like really early on, that I loved, until my father, and then my dad's side comes in, who was a big rock, you know, and metal fan, I would say, for the period of time of the you know, of the 70s, you know, 70s and everything. He was, you know, he loved. I mean, we had Hendrix on vinyl in the house. We had Zeppelin. We had Leonard Skinner. We had Blue Oyster Cult. We had Sabbath. We had, you know, I mean, you name it. You know, I mean, the heavier rock of that, you know, period of time, he was a big fan of. And even as music got heavier, even he still loves it. You know, my dad's, you know, I mean, my dad's really in the death metal and black metal. I mean, it's
Oh,
really
right
kind of
on.
cool. Yeah, all the time. He's 68 now, and loves that stuff. But the turning point for me when I chose my instrument is when Dad brought home the brand new vinyl of the Ozzy Osbourne Randy Rhoads tribute album.
Nice.
Yeah. And I mean, my dad had Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, you know, and I listened to those. But when I heard the live, and I was about 10 years old at the time, that's when the emotions kicked in listening to music. It wasn't just I like the music. It became I love the music, and I love what this guy is doing. You know, I just responded to you know, the guitar, you know, and everything about it. And of course that album will stand forever because of
Yeah.
Randy Rhoads. I mean, it's so I mean, besides the technician, yes, incredible, but such a passionate player too. Such a passionate player. Anytime he bent a note, you feel it.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
he does like a little scale run, and in your mind, you're scale running with him. You know, you're like, and you're like, yeah, you know, you know, he was able, he was the ability that he had being able to communicate with a person playing guitar, you know, in a way is it was in the same way that people use their voice, were able to use their voice to
Yeah.
communicate with each other. But
That's
of
a,
course, with a guitar and sound, more magical.
yeah. I was about to say that exact word. I was going to say his tone is magical. It just kind of grabs you. Yeah. I totally agree with you. That's
Yeah.
well put.
So
Well said.
so that's what I want. That's what I wanted to play guitar, you know. And my parents were really cool and supportive about it. You know, my mom with you know, with my grandfather doing what he did in music and everything, and I mean, I'm very fortunate for that. And my father being such, you know, the big rock and roll fan, the fact that, you know, I wanted to be this, you know, guitar player. And so yeah, I got my first guitar amp, the Crate GX15, I think it was, like a little combo, and the Kramer Striker 250 guitar. Electric guitar. And yeah, the rest is history. You know, and of course you pick up other influences. Kerry King from Slayer. I love it. I mean, you know, rest in peace. I love Jeff Hanneman too, and his style and everything. There's just something about when Kerry plays that it's just a little more, you know, just a little
Yeah.
more anger. You know, to me, it's just always a little extra. You know, and you can hear it in a Slayer album between the two of them in styles.
Oh,
Dimebag, of course. You know, love Dimebag. You know, I mean, personality as a human being, as well as an artist. Because I know he never, you know, even as Pantera became the biggest thing in the world, he never gave up being that kid that was a fan, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, they'd be on tour and he was geeking out that Gene Simmons was banging out backstage with him, you know, you know, as equals, you know, he still had that about him. And I always thought that, I still think that that's still so really cool, because I'm the same way in a lot of ways, you know. If I encounter a musician or somebody that I'm just like, oh my God, you know. And Dino Cazares, I may have botched his name, but from Fear Factory. The first time I saw Fear Factory live was when they opened for Iron Maiden during the X Factor tour. That was the time when Blaze Bayley was in Maiden for that period of time. Yeah, back in '96, and it was you know, first time seeing Iron Maiden that was in an arena, which was, you know, pretty cool. But yeah, just seeing what Dino was doing with the 7-string and the rhythms he was doing in the lower tones and how he was doing it made me go 7-string, and I've been doing that ever since.
Nice. Was there well, here's the obvious question, and maybe a stupid question, but you know, with, you know, living in Tampa, I would imagine you know, I mean, that's a hotbed of metal, you know, especially extreme metal. You know, from the 80s, you know, you look at, you know, Nasty Savage, and, you know, up into the death metal scene. I'd imagine there was, and you guys have, it seems like, in terms of extreme metal, have carried on and perpetuated kind of that movement in a lot of ways. So I was curious, you know, kind of those influences as well. Were you part of that scene as a kid? Did you go to those shows like Death and, you know?
Oh, very much so. I mean, I saw all those bands before the rest of the world did. You know, it was exciting. You know, I mean, all of a sudden, you know, Cannibal Corpse, that was like playing in the, you know, in the teen club, you know, that I got to see them and doing their thing, is now all of a sudden they, you know, it was announced that they just finished a record, and, you know, and now are going to do a tour in Europe, you know. Yeah, I mean, it was incredible being around that scene and watching those bands grow and develop. And that was kind of another clicker for me, because up until then, you know, and you'd know, everything was California. If you weren't in California, you know, it was the glam in LA or the Bay Area thrash scene. Yeah, or, you know, if you happen to be, you know, or if you were in the UK, you know, but nothing else was. I mean, okay, well, I'll take that back. There was the New York hardcore movement, but it really wasn't blowing up into any kind of a mainstream level.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because that's, you know, I feel that's where hardcore should be. But really, Tampa was really, I feel, and I mean, my memory serves me great, was really like the first scene out of that 80s California gridlock that really went international with this genre of death metal in the United States. And that was incredibly inspiring, because of the fact that, you know, I don't have to go to LA and tease my hair to try to do something in music, or, you know, or try to fit in San Francisco or something. You know, what we were doing right here was special. And, you know, and the thing was to do our best to follow that blueprint on what they were doing.
Yeah, definitely. So what, you know, so we've chatted about how you kind of got started in music. I was curious, like, what was the next jumping point for you, like, in terms of a band? You know, was it high school? Was it junior high? Like, when did, like, kind of the metal really bite for you? And I'm like, oh, I've got to do this professionally. I want to, you know, continue this. When did that happen, and how did that happen?
I mean, I'm honestly, from the time I listened to that first Randy Rhoads record, that was always the mission, and that was always the goal for me. I really started actually writing my own songs like around when I was 16.
Yes.
You know, and again, that's being a sophomore in high school here in Tampa, Florida, and, you know, seeing guys, you know, in their early 20s, you know, going out to see the world. And, you know, so, you know, my whole mission at 16-year-old was to be try to be heavier, faster, and more satanic than all of them. I mean, if you really want to do that. And I had a first band at the time, Genocide, and we played a lot locally, and we did we did get to do an 8-song album that went out in '93, and we did do like the first van tour regionally, and that was really cool and really really exciting. And then again, as most things that happen, life, at the time, the guys I was in the band, their college ambitions were, that's like, okay, we did this, we had fun, now we're going to go to college now. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. We got more to do.
you know yeah, I'm like, no, this is just the beginning, man. I mean, we can be, we can be like these guys, no, so that's, and just to interject a different point, that I find in music, that is probably the hardest thing ever, is to get and keep a lineup of people together, to endure, to do the hard things, because it is hard.
Yeah.
It is hard when when you got to put gas in the vehicle, so you can't eat right now.
Right. Yeah.
It's, but I don't know. I mean, I see it as a great and big adventure. But yeah, I mean, they went off and did their thing, and I still wanted to do this. I got in a cover band for 3 years just so I can play on stage. I was, and also there was also a turn in kind of in the music industry at the time. When I got in the cover band, I was 21, so we're looking at 1997, and the world was grunge.
Yeah.
The world was grunge. There really wasn't metal. Even here in Tampa, the metal really kind of took a backseat to a lot of things. So, and I mean, I do like some of the bands from that era, but I wasn't really about to put on flannel and Doc Martens and just and just play 3 chords. It wasn't me then. It just that's just was inauthentic. So I did the cover band for about 3 years, and at least that put me on stage like 2 or 3 nights a week for 3 years, and that was good. That went awry, and that's okay. And then I kind of got more into more of an alternative metal band, something that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do, but good enough, just to get things going. And then that was also during the time when Korn and Limp Bizkit and those bands came to prominent, And I mean, I remember there were times even before I got in that band. It was called Mind Trip. I'd audition for other bands, and then there was a break in the song, and I'd start playing. I'd start going off into a guitar solo, and then the whole band would stop. Wait.
Oh,
I mean, like, what? What? It's like, oh, we're just one unit. There's no leader. There's no lead guy in this band. We all groove together in a singular rhythm. Solos are dead, and I'm like, God. I was just like, well, I mean, no one's singing, the vocalist isn't singing. You guys are both playing the same thing over and over. Why don't I just do it? No. So yeah, it was during the anti-Guitar Hero period of time, which again, not good for me. So yeah, I mean, fast forward after that. Just to jump, it really wasn't until 2007 where I got Foreshadow together, where I was actually able to get a metal band together. So yeah, I mean, from the time I was 18, it was really like 13 years in my whole 20s of not finding anybody or any situation that wanted to do metal.
Yeah.
During that period. I mean, actual metal in that period of time, So, I mean, I really didn't get a metal band together, after my first one went awry, until I was 31 years old.
Wow. Yeah, that was as you said. I mean, that was a weird time. That, kind of late '90s, early 2000s. That was a bizarre to be a metalhead, especially an older, metalhead. It was such a bizarre time to try to find, killer music, especially if you're, guitar driven, music. That was a struggle. I remember being frustrated, and not being able to like, what is going on with the musical scene right now? It's so weird. It's so bizarre. So I'm glad it's kind of come full circle in a lot of ways. And very grateful that bands like Blood of Angels now exist, that are guitar driven and heavy, and that's one thing I you mentioned very early on in the interview. One of the things that I love about your guitar work particularly is, even though it's and again, not to put Blood of Angels into a specific genre, because you guys do a lot of different stuff, but you're pretty heavy, you're extreme, you're kind of on the death metal spectrum, I guess you could say. But there's some really beautiful, really soaring guitar passages that you lay down that have where you kind of like Iron Maiden almost, that kind of really soaring. And I love that. I mean, I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan, so it's like there's certain guitar passages that you play, I'm like, oh my God, this is just breathtaking. It's fantastic.
I appreciate that.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
that's awesome,
really
man.
cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I love that kind of mix of genres anyway. I love when there's lots of elements and lots of collaboration in the music, and I think that's what you guys do really, really well. So I'm absolutely thrilled that you're working on a new album. I wish it would be coming out sooner, just because I'm a fan and I'm a child at heart, so like I want it now. But
and that's a wonderful thing,
Yeah.
It's like Bruce Dickinson said, it's all about having, staying in touch with that inner 15-year-old.
Yeah, exactly.
And all of us at I guess, to be kind, at a certain age,
yeah,
we're very much in touch with that inner 15-year-old.
Oh yeah. I think I'm more so than I ever was before, as you can probably see from the wall behind me.
Oh yeah, no, I love the wall. I'm kind of glancing, going around.
And somebody
like looking at all the different things. Like, what else he's got back there?
Yeah, somebody in his 50s with a room that looks like a 13-year-old in my studio here.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and there's action figures over there.
No, awesome.
So I don't want to keep you all night, Aaron. This has been awesome chatting with you, but I do have one last question for you.
Sure.
So as you may or may not know, my blog, my page is called Brews and Tunes. So I pair craft beer with metal. So I'm going to put you on the spot, only because you mentioned earlier that you like dark beer, you like whiskey. So it's, it's a Friday night, it's a Saturday night, Aaron Robinson, you're hanging out at home, cracking open a beer, cracking open a bottle, spinning a record. What are you drinking and what are you listening to?
Coppertail is not, it's Coppertail Brewery here in Tampa.
Oh, nice.
Great beer. Love it. They make a beer called the Night Swim, which is a real full body porter. It's delicious.
Nice.
What am I spinning? Probably the first one I'm going for is Slayer's Rain and Blood, just to kick it on off.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, Aaron, thank you so very much for chatting with me tonight. This has been an absolute pleasure. For those of you watching, please look in the description below. There are links to Blood of Angels. Definitely check them out if you have not heard them before. This band kicks ass. I'm infatuated with the latest album, the Failure of Faith. Just a killer, well-rounded, beautiful album. So check them out if you have not heard them before. I think you guys are in Bandcamp, right? They can stream your music, they can download the music. But yeah,
I mean, you can do it. You can do it on our website, bloodofangels.net. You can stream it and download it there as well. And of course, all the sources: Spotify, iTunes. Especially Spotify. If you have a Spotify membership, throw a few of our songs on your playlist. That always helps. In that sea of yeah, we didn't really get into the music business side of things, and, you know, and that one-sided sea that is the Spotify, the new music monopoly. But
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
yeah,
For
no,
both.
it is, and I'll go ahead and give a plug, and I'm not paid for this, but if you're curious kind of on where the music business has gone from the year 2000, Netflix has just put out a great docu-series called The Playlist. It
Oh,
really goes into the depths of like how Napster and Pirate Bay, and how that initial rebelliousness turned into a big juggernaut monopoly that became Spotify and all the inner workings of it. And it's such a great eye opener. So, especially if you're a musician in a band out there, definitely recommend a watch.
nice. Nice. Very cool. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Well, Aaron, thank you so very much. This has been fantastic chatting with you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me on.